Batman's Log, October 3rd, 2004. I will do my best to recount the events of the last day. Right now, it is 5:30 a.m. on Sunday, October 3rd. I have woken up in a seemingly abandoned hotel. At first, I didn't know how I got there. But as I searched around the room in my panic, looking for possible traps, my memory started to clear up. I came here on purpose. The only question is why. I will attempt to retrace my steps from when I entered the city. Friday, I had found the town of Silent Hill. Croc's truck was parked just outside the city limits, and one of his men seemed to be killed ritualistically. I ended my previous log as I was about to approach the city itself through a foggy forest road. The Batmobile sped across the pavement as the trees closed in. Further, I was forced to slow down just a bit upon entering the fog, and turned on my fog lights. The mist was so thick, I have waded through solid clouds of smoke that gave more comfort than the seemingly constant shroud around this territory. Even with the brightest settings on the Batmobile's lights, I could barely see 10 feet ahead. As more turns came, and as I passed more signs, I had no choice but to slow down even further. I started to see the silhouettes of tall buildings coming up in the distance, when something popped up in front of me. I merely blinked, and the silhouette of a person seemed to just appear out of nothing. I couldn't tell if I was seeing things or if the fog really concealed this person's form that much. But I didn't hesitate. Driving on the streets of Gotham, it became necessary to install quick-stopping emergency brakes to avoid casualties, though the jolt of a momentum from the sudden stop still manages to jostle me around for a moment, despite my own safety measures. They stopped me only just before I could make contact with the figure. Standing before me was a woman dressed in a red gown and wearing a pearl necklace. Her light brown hair was done up in a bun. She didn't scream. She had simply braced for impact and was then staring at the vehicle in confusion, clearly expecting to have died. I had no reason to trust any person who just happens to be in a ghost town, especially when Crane and Croc are involved, but I still had a responsibility to the civilians. I had to check her out for both wellness and possible suspicion. I stepped out of the Batmobile, my own figure blurred to her by the fog and darkened by the lights still shining in her direction. I didn't want to risk my appearance frightening the already shocked woman into panic, nor did I want to get too close without knowing who she was. I stayed obscured to her view as I began my questioning. "Are you all right?" I asked calmly to hopefully bring her down. "No," she hollered at me. "No, nothing can ever be all right again. Why did you stop?" I was stumped at the question. I questioned to myself whether or not she had purposefully leapt in front of me in an attempt at ending her own life. She was clearly in a state of hysteria, so I attempted to calm her down. Are you all right, ma'am?" I asked again. I have first aid equipment if you need it. She began to stutter, the start of a sentence, but was apparently caught off guard by my attempted hospitality. She began to turn around and look everywhere before looking back at me. She was utterly confused. "Who are you?" she asked me. "Aren't you one of them?" "I am not one of whoever you might be thinking of," I assured the woman. "I am a detective from Gotham City. What is your name?" "I want to see you," she demanded. "I want to see your face before I tell you anything." I knew this could not be done gracefully, but if I was to gain more information from this woman, as well as keep her safe, I had to comply. My shape became more clear to her as I stepped towards the light. Predictably, she seemed scared as the image of a large bat person got closer to her. She trembled at my imposing figure. She had fallen backwards in a feeble attempt to back away, and began to curl into the fetal position as she began to cry the word "no" repeatedly. "I am not your enemy," I assured her. "I am what I say I am, a detective from Gotham City. Perhaps you've heard of me through the news. I am Batman." "But Batman?" she stuttered in a confused tone. "That's right." I lowered my tone to be less intimidating. "I am here, looking for some criminals who I tracked to this town. Do you understand?" She stared up at me and simply nodded. I stretched out my hand to offer her help. Reluctantly, she took my hand and stood to face me up close. She took in every bit of my appearance in a kind of awe that I have grown accustomed to when rescuing civilians. With her cooperating, I questioned her some more. "What is your name?" I began. "Why did you appear in front of my car?" "You must have heard the engine approaching." She gave me an uncertain look, still not fully trusting me, but answered, "I am Celine Vale. I was looking for my husband out here. No, I didn't hear your engine. It was like you came out of nowhere." "Your husband is out here?" I questioned. "Why are the two of you in an abandoned town?" "Abandoned?" she scoffed. "Silent Hill may not be what it used to be, but there are still people living out here. My family owns some land near Toluca Lake. We were on our way back from a vacation yesterday. That's when the monster showed up." "Monster?" I interrogated. "Care to clarify?" "It was a horrible thing," she cried. "We were going by the lake when it went inside the water. A big man-shaped thing covered in teeth and scales." "That would be Waylon Jones," I informed her. "One of the criminals from Gotham that I am tracking down. He has a rare skin condition that makes him look almost reptilian, thus earning him the alias Killer Croc." "He has taken residence near the lake?" "There's no way that was just a deformed man," she insisted. "I swear that I saw some man on a boat in that lake get eaten." The thing burst up out of the water and bit the man's head clean off. That's why we were trying to escape, but you can't. You can't escape Silent Hill unless it lets you. You and your husband were walking out of town? I questioned. No, she admitted. We were running to the car, but he's faster than me. He started the engine and drove off. I tried to run out of town on foot, hoping to catch him here by the border. Why would he be at the border and not out of town entirely if he was willing to leave you here? I asked. It's this town, she said in a shudder. The people say that those who begin to see monsters in Silent Hill aren't allowed to leave without the town's permission. I didn't believe it until I saw that creature. I figured that I could catch up with him here, where he couldn't escape, and get vengeance for his abandonment of you. Try to stay together for safer numbers, or try to get back to the car. I interrogated. I don't know, she cried. It's all been so frightening that I didn't really think any further ahead. You'll be safer with me, I proclaimed. Get in my car, and I can take you to the nearest town. No, you can't, she insisted. If I try to leave without permission, I will die. Celine, I raised the sternness of my voice. I can take you out of here. There are dangerous super criminals in the city. You can't stay here. It's too late, she kept insisting. Once people go into the fog, only a few ever get out. I'll be safer at my home. I can at least maybe barricade myself in and hope this all passes over. I was getting annoyed at her superstitious belief. I had to ensure the safety of an innocent person, but she was unwilling to go. I had passed a road sign signaling the nearby town of Shepherd's Glen on the way to Silent Hill. I told her that I would take her home with the intent of turning straight around and booking it to the nearest neighborhood to drop her off at a local police station in Shepherd's Glen. She took my offer, and I immediately turned around. Much to her chagrin, she yelled at me the whole time I drove back the way I came. I just thought to myself that she would be fine as soon as we passed the welcome sign, but something strange happened. As the fog got a little thinner, I could see a structure forming, but it wasn't the sign. It was a gas station on the main road leading into town. She fell silent, as confused as I was as we stopped. I suppose that I had somehow gotten mixed up earlier, and turned around again in a straight line. I sped through the mist and trees until we happened upon the same gas station, in the same orientation as before. In frustration, I tried one more time with the same result. I really was stuck in Silent Hill, somehow. I followed her directions through town until reaching her address on Shelley Drive. She exited and ran into her home. I went into the large 3-story house with her to inspect. There were no signs of threats, so I gave her a communicator turned into my private frequency in case of trouble, and left to investigate the town further, starting with the lake. I had made my way to a wooded area near the lake, that could conceal my presence and watched with my binoculars. The lake was still and peaceful, almost as though it was devoid of any organisms populating it. I stayed watching and going across different areas of the lake into the morning of the next day. All the infrared could detect was my own hot breath. There were no heat signatures coming from the lake. Croc is an adept swimmer, but he's still human. He still needs to breathe, and he's still warm-blooded. I had decided to call it quits with the lake for now. At that time, I had been awake for nearly 48 hours. I couldn't risk any mental delusions messing up my rationality, especially not in this place, so I decided to find a place to sleep. I made it into town with no signs of life anywhere. The safest place to sleep was the Batmobile, so I tried to find a hidden area to park. Eventually, I found the empty indoor parking lot for this hotel downtown and situated myself there. Just as I was trying to fall asleep, I heard a familiar voice calling to me. "This way, sir," it called. I recognized the voice. It was Alfred. I turned to see Alfred standing in the doorway, leading into the hotel. He looked younger, like he was when he took me as his responsibility after the death of my parents. I knew it couldn't be him, but I was overcome with an old sense of trust and need. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it was almost like I was a child again, being picked up by Alfred from the police station and being brought back home. Against my better judgment, I followed the figure inside of the hotel. As I progressed, the walls of the hotel seemed to resemble those of Wayne Manor more and more. Eventually, the supposed Alfred opened up a door, and I gladly entered what appeared to be my childhood bedroom. I climbed into bed, already in my Zorro-themed pajamas. I was a kid again. The last thing I remember is Alfred closing the door, and I rested until the morning of this next day. That sound, that's identical to the shriek of the man-bat. It's coming from outside in the distance. I need to end this log here. Batman out.